The only black person on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla was beaten by Israeli occupation forces. Chris Smalls, the American labor organizer, was allegedly beaten by 7 IOF soldiers who choked and kicked him. And then, when he met with his lawyer, he was allegedly surrounded by 6 members of Israel's Special Police Unit. And I really don't think that this is any coincidence. Israel is an outpost of Western imperialism. Its founders stated that it was going to be an outpost of civilization, opposed to barbarism. They were inspired by the Scramble for Africa, the event which led to the killing of tens of millions of Congolese people. Israel was one of apartheid South Africa's final allies, whilst the Palestinian Liberation Organization, led by Yasser Arafat, were working in collaboration with Nelson Mandela and the ANC to try and bring down apartheid. And there are currently former IOF soldiers working as mercenaries in the Congo. And so is it really surprising that this imperialist country that collaborates with the most barbarous regimes all over the world and helps to train the American police would beat up a black person out of all of the activists? No.
My name is Chris Smalls from the United States. If you are seeing this video, we have been intercepted at sea and have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation forces or forces of the country complicit in Israel's genocide of the Palestinians.
Chris is a prolific organizer, and he was the first person to ever unionize an Amazon warehouse in America. Just tap in and say that Chris Smalls was the only member of the Freedom Flotilla who was choked and beaten by 7 members of the Israeli occupation forces. He is the only person that is being treated this way with this level of force. And I'm gonna take it there because this is the reason why we say, as black people, that black liberation will benefit everyone. Because all of the racism and the oppression and the dehumanization that other groups are experiencing is all rooted in the destruction of black people and blackness. Anytime a black person does a direct action, anytime a black person does something that is escalatory, we are automatically at higher risk than everybody else that is participating in that thing because of the color of our skin, period. And Chris was treated in ways that Greta Thunberg and Jacob Berger would fucking never be. Oh yeah, and for all of the politicians and all the rich motherfuckers who had the power and the privilege to stop this shit, who are just now speaking up, I would like to say formally, fuck you, because all of you are fucking cowards. I pray that you never see another moment of peace because, bitch, you don't deserve it. But Chris and the crew of the Freedom Flotilla are doing, what the many people are doing, what the resistance fighters of Palestine are doing. That is bravery, and you motherfuckers couldn't even smell it if it was right in your fucking face. Fuck.
If you want to add some more context, consider this. Many police officers around this country, the same officers who are known for abusing and killing black folks and poor folks, are known to have received training from the Israeli National Police. And unsurprisingly, the Israeli National Police is known for various human rights violations against Palestinians. For instance, it was revealed in 2016 that the Baltimore Police Department, the same police department that killed Freddie Gray, had received training in Israel in crowd control, use of force, and surveillance. And it's not just Baltimore. Hundreds of other police departments have traveled to Israel, like ones from Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington State, the DC Capitol Police, and thousands of other police departments across America have received training from Israeli officials here in the United States with your taxpayer money. And unsurprisingly, Memphis's police chief, the one who oversaw the killing of Tyree Nichols, was also trained by Israel's national police. It's no coincidence, y'all. Our liberation here is inextricably tied to our family in Palestine. Because if we can't stand to see what's been happening to us here, then just imagine what's been happening to Palestinians.
Hold on, wait a minute. Stop what the hell you doing.
Have I heard about Chris Smalls?
What the fuck going on? What the fuck going on?
Chris Smalls, the famous black labor leader who took on Amazon and won, is being held captive by Israel. He remains detained at the time of this video after being violently seized by IOF forces during a humanitarian mission to Gaza. Beaten by 7 IOF forces who choked, kicked, and left visible injuries on his neck and back, Chris is now in a filthy, boiling hot cell crawling with bed bugs and being subjected to ongoing abuse by mass IOF jailers.
Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. Are you though? Because Chris Smalls is a resident of New Jersey, and I haven't heard you say Dickie McGee's acts about the Israeli regime kidnapping him. Neither of them have said anything about Chris Smalls being kidnapped by the Israeli regime and held there, reportedly being tortured and beaten. This is Andy Kim's website with his contact information. Please pause so you have the number and start calling them. This is Cory Booker's contact information. Please pause and call him. Chris is from New Jersey. He lives there, so they have a direct responsibility in ensuring that he get home safe. The Israeli regime return him now and safely.
I feel like people are afraid to call their elected officials because they just aren't used to seeing people do it. Let me show you what that looks like.
So, Gaza Freedom Flotilla is an organization, is that right?
Gaza Freedom Flotilla, yeah, it is an organization. They have a fleet of ships that they've been trying to send in order to deliver necessary aid to Gaza, such as food, medicine, water, things like that.
Alright, let me know if I said this right, okay?
Okay.
So, just sum it up the best way I can. Alright, an activist named Christian Smalls from New York is currently detained by Israel after participating in a trip on the Hanwha boat with the Gaza Freedom Flotilla organization, with the Gaza Freedom Flotilla organization, which is providing relief to Gaza who is now facing stage 5 famine. He is not being released. They are subjecting him to brutality and are being escorted by a special service unit. His identity as a black man may be a factor in this situation. We fear for his life, and they refuse to release him. He is also on a hunger strike and is being treated poorly. I urge Congressman Scott to address the situation and reach out to connections in Israel to help American citizens in danger. Okay, good. I will get this sent up to our DC office, and thank you, ma'am, for calling in and letting your voice be heard, okay?
Oh, you heard that he was in the process of being released, huh? Okay.
Well, he ain't home yet, so keep calling.
Yeah, you were giving an update on Chris Smalls.
Oh, we have the horrible information that he has been beaten, that he has been treated horribly, and that instead of sending him now out from Tel Aviv to the U.S., they're instead taking him by land to Jordan and then putting him on a plane to Dubai and then sending him on a plane to Newark from there. So he's been treated totally differently from all of the other Americans who were on the gondola, and trying to get people from the U.S. consulate in Jordan to be there when he enters Jordan, to make sure he gets on flights, to learn from him exactly how he was treated, and to provide the consular services that they refused to do when he was in Israel. And then we will have people in Newark to greet him when he arrives at 9:20 in the morning.
Can we definitively say he has been released?
Well, he's in the process of being released.
He's in the process of being released.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Can't wait until he's back in the U.S. and we hear from him directly. But we know that he was kidnapped illegally, and we know that he was treated very differently from everyone else. Racism, perhaps? I would say so.
I would think so. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, keep the pressure on them. Here's all the information again. Call them up until Chris Smalls gets home. Call them up. Keep calling. It's free. This ain't the early 2000s anymore. You ain't got minutes to waste. You call somebody.
Amazingly, the New York City Police Department trains in Israel, and they even have a branch of the NYPD in Israel itself, if that makes any sense. And we wonder why our police are so politically biased. But that's not the only major city to do that. It's also in Baltimore, Maryland, and the Washington, D.C. police, the guys who protect our capital, they train in Israel too. Many different states actually send their police to train in Israel too. Here's a list. Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, and Washington State. Why is a foreign government training our police? I mean, really, can't we train ourselves? I mean, the answer is obvious. While they're training, they also get a lot of political influence that's going to be trained in their tactics and also in who they arrest and how they arrest them. So this is a method of influence and grooming within our police departments. And of course, our own taxpayers' money pays for this. And now knowing all this, it really changes your perspective of how you view all the police controversies for the past decade, doesn't it? We need to remove foreign influence from our police. And our police just need to be able to do their jobs without as little political influence as possible. And in that way, the police are better off and the community's better off.
This is Chris Smalls. Chris is the former president of the Amazon Laborers Union. He helped to organize the Amazon workers so that they could form a union and fight for fair wages. Recently, Chris was aboard the Handala flotilla. The entire crew of the Handala was kidnapped by Israeli soldiers. Chris was the only black man aboard the Handala. As the only black man aboard the Handala, Chris was the only one brutally beaten upon arrival. As the only black man aboard the Handala, Chris was the only one surrounded by 7 Israeli soldiers as he met with his attorneys. We want Chris Smalls and the entire crew of the Handala returned safely. The crew of the Handala is a flotilla or a water vessel like a boat. They were attempting to deliver life-saving supplies to the children in Palestine, one of these supplies being baby formula, when they were kidnapped by Israeli soldiers. Black TikTok, I need your help. I need you to share my posts, make your own posts, whatever it is that you need to do to get the word out that Chris Smalls and the entire crew of the Handala flotilla have been kidnapped by Israeli soldiers.
Is anybody curious where our tax dollars are going, where it's spent? Is it to improve our lives here in America? Is it going to improve healthcare or the homeless crisis or student loans? The answer is no. It is going not only to fund a genocide, to provide illegal weapons to a place that is using those weapons against children, to dismember and maim them, to create orphans. It is also going to train our police departments. Now you're thinking, oh, well, that's a good thing. Our police departments should be trained. But what you're not aware of is that they are being trained by Israeli defense forces. All of these states here have had police departments that have either gone to Israel for training or have had received training from Israeli officials, meaning Israeli soldiers, here in the United States. Where is that money coming from? Well, a lot of that money is coming, again, from our tax dollars. So when you see how brutal these police officers behave when they are suffocating people to death, the way they are terrorizing students right now on college campuses and throwing them down the stairs and dragging their bodies around and using tear gas and tasers on them. That is thanks to their wonderful training by the IDF. And if you're not okay with this, and you shouldn't be, speak up.
This is Chris Smalls, was choked and beaten by Israeli forces while trying to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. Now, a little background on Chris Smalls. He was the one that co-founded the Amazon Labor Union and became a national figure after helping organize the first ever Amazon warehouse union in Staten Island in 2022. Recently, he was on board the Handala flotilla, bringing baby formula, medical supplies, and essential aid into Gaza. According to the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, Israeli forces detained 21 activists. Smalls was reportedly the only black activist subjected to this kind of violence. He was choked and kicked by 7 uniformed officers, suffering injuries to his neck, his back, and he was later surrounded by special police while trying to visit with his lawyer. Treatment not used on any others that were with him. Despite their assault, Smalls still emerged with resolve. Videos surfaced from the flotilla show him speaking passionately, in good spirits, but demanding accountability for human rights. This, of course, remains a highly overlooked story in the media. Even as other nations reached out to the flotilla of their citizens aboard, the U.S. has not.
I just wanted to mention that the IDF trains American cops. They are the biggest group of, people that are really good at unaliving people, and they teach our cops how to protect and serve. Did you know that the history of American policing started out as a way to catch slaves. Literally, that is the beginning of the history of what we have as current American police. And they rebranded it after a while to make it seem less racist or whatever, but it's still been upholding all of those racist and systemic problems because of how it started out. There is no way for that institution to have continued in the same way without having to completely switch in order to be actually good for the American people. American cops are not going to be able to unlearn the military, like the hardcore military tactics that they shouldn't have had to learn. We should do you remember Andy Griffith? Like, can we have him? Like, no. Then police now, like, they exist only to protect property. They don't actually help if you have a problem. I have called them a couple times in the last year, and they told me both times, they're like, this sounds like a domestic matter. We don't do that. So really, if they're not there to solve domestic issues that require orders for protection, like if they won't come and talk to you because you want an order for protection, saying that it sounds like a domestic matter, like, okay, so the cops didn't protect me, so and they really are, they're just there to protect capital, or to arrest people for nothings, or to unalive people because they have so much trauma. Like, American cops are so fucked up right now. They're freaked out after all of this stuff that's been going on. The pressure on them is immense. They're not receiving good therapy. The systems are not designed to help them heal and grow. It's just to toughen it up and whatever. Blah, blah, blah. American cops aren't okay. They're not going to get any better unless they all do a ton of trauma therapy. They're going out there with weapons and the training from the IDF. Do you feel safe with them on the streets? I mean, they're the ones that are supposed to be protecting our kids, right? And they're unhinged. And there's not a way to psychologically be okay as a cop in America right now unless you are receiving a lot of therapy, but honestly, they're not okay, and they're not getting therapy, and they're hurt, and they're going home and they're taking it out on their families, and I don't know, just burn it down. There's 7 empty houses for every unhoused person in America. If every person had the opportunity to be housed and live comfortably, there would be far less crime, and then there would be less policing. Because they say, when you talk about the police or the military, if you talk about them at all, badly, they're like, they protect us, they protect us from who? Who's coming after us? And who are they protecting, really? If they're not protecting me, they're not protecting my friend Jasmine Sherman, they're not protecting anyone that doesn't feel safe with the cops, which is a majority demographic at this point. What the fuck is the point? And it makes me so upset that we have this, that America and Israel have this incestuous relationship, and they're just using it all over the world, and they're just bleeding all over the world, and I, as an American, am so tired of it. I don't want to have to pay for the war crimes of my own country, and I don't like to, how sad I feel when I realize that it's my own country, it's my own leader that I voted for, that is doing this. And I just don't like it. So, and I just don't like that there's weird shit going on with the IDF, and our military and the IDF, or our police and the IDF, there's something really weird about that. And I think that we need to be worried about it in a real, alarming sort of way. Honestly. No one likes to be, hey, here's something we need to worry about guy. I have always been that guy though. But no one likes the prophet that prophesies negative things, but police are scared. Israel is scared. Democrats are scared. Biden is scared. Things are going to get weird. And I just want you to know that cops aren't to be trusted. And they are allowed to lie to you. They don't have to tell you the truth. And keep yourself safe. Don't call the cops. Call your friends. Make sure that you have friends around you that whose numbers you have. Make sure that you do what you need to do online to keep yourself safe. But cops aren't here for us anymore either. So, ACAB.
Handala, which is the most recent iteration of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla that was bringing aid to people who are currently starving under Israel's enforced blockade, was recently intercepted by Israeli ships just miles outside of Gaza's waters. When it was intercepted by the IOF, there were a lot of people on board who were all interested in seeing an end to Israel's genocide. And yet one specifically was targeted, taken aside, choked, and beaten severely. Chris Smalls, U.S. citizen and the organizer of the Amazon Union. I just wonder, what made them single him out? Why specifically him? I just can't think of anything. Chris Smalls put his body on the line because he's an American citizen, because he's a progressive icon, because he has mainstream pull. And yet none of that matters in the face of a racist apartheid society that feels emboldened to get away with whatever violence it deems fit. Israel is a U.S.-sponsored ethno-state. They understand America very well at the end of the day. They know that just like they can get away with unlimited violence towards Arabs because international law was not built to protect these people, they know that they can offer some of that same violence to Black Americans because this country does not care to give them their protection. It's almost too explicit to be believed. What further proof do you need that the tactics developed in the periphery will always boomerang their way back to the imperial core?
Okay, good morning. So, I don't know if y'all are like me, but I have been learning a lot since the whole situation has started in Gaza. Well, hasn't started. The ongoing. Okay, as we know, the situation in Gaza has been going on for decades now. But I, like a lot of people, have been asleep to the facts. So as I'm learning, I'm finding out different things. For instance, this. How many people knew that our police departments were going to Israel to be trained by IOF soldiers? Did y'all know this? Or am I just late to the game? Because it's definitely possible. Because like I said, I have been asleep when it comes to a lot of these facts. But this is a no-no. We cannot have this, because this explains why there are so many police-involved shootings of unarmed, pretty much minorities, people of color. They're being trained by those savages in Israel. How do we stop this? This is a travesty that just cannot continue. So, I don't know who we have to talk to, who we have to harass, but this is something that cannot continue. They need to find some other country or someone else to learn their training tactics with, because it is not working. And if anybody is familiar with how the IOF treats the Palestinians, yeah, pretty much the same way police officers treat people of color. Okay? We have to stop this. So what's your thoughts, people? First of all, I'd like to know, am I late to the game with this? Probably am. Did you know about this? We need to make this go viral and change this. This cannot continue. This must stop. Because it's the only way that our police department will actually treat people humanely if they find a different trainer. Because as we see, the IOF does not treat people of color, mainly Palestinians, with any sort of humanity or dignity.
Hey, good morning. So you want to know if they had anything to do with Cop City? Well, let's find out. In one, a two, a three. Three. You see, Israel has long been a U.S. ally, but Atlanta, they've had a special relationship with the country too. For more than 30 years, law enforcement leaders from around the metro area have traveled to Israel to train officers on the best practices in community policing and homeland security. It's through a program called the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, or GILI, based out of Georgia State University, and it's run by an Israeli man called Dr. Robert Friedman. So what's GILI, you ask? Well, according to Bigotry and Brutality in Foreign Police Training, a comprehensive report on the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, GILI is a privately controlled and largely privately funded police exchange program. And according to its website, the program arranges for American law enforcement officials, corporate security executives, and others to engage in training, briefings, and seminars with foreign governments, including the Chinese, Egyptian, Hungarian, Kazakh, Uzbek, and Israeli governments. The last of which, the Israeli government, is the original and primary focus of the program. Since GILI's inception in 1992, at least 1,600 participants have engaged in its training programs, including officers from the Atlanta Police Department. You can pause to read the rest if you like. Now, when Georgia-based officials travel to the Middle East for training, they study at least 28 different topics. And although GILI has long refused to share the details about what officials learn through their programs, open records requests have forced GILI to reveal that the 28 topics include border policing, community policing, and urban policing. Now, the most recent delegation to travel to Israel, they traveled for 2 weeks in June, and that included 12 Georgia police chiefs and their command staff, 3 Georgia sheriffs, the former director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and members of the Department of Justice, Georgia Public Safety Training Center, and Georgia Department of Public Safety. Oftentimes, a GILI delegation will take trips to Israel to train on the ground, and some years, the delegation hosts Israeli officials here in Atlanta. And after taking the trip to Israel, the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Michael Register, wrote a letter to Governor Brian Kemp stating the program was one of the best leadership experiences he's ever had in his personal career. Here's a photo of Thompson Police Chief Courtney Gale. She was also on the trip to Israel. And Dr. Friedman, the creator of GILI, he says that we've had all the chiefs of Atlanta police participate in it. So what does any of this have to do with Cop City? Well, according to Jocelyn James, Israel's Defense Force, the IDF, may become a component of Atlanta's Cop City thanks to the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange Program, also known as GILI.
Chris Smalls is being held captive by Israel right now. If you don't know who Chris Smalls is, he was the labor organizer that organized the labor at Amazon. He was a peace activist on the flotilla, and they were taken by Israeli forces. And the peace activists are being held in cells that are super hot, covered in bed bugs. They're just trying to deliver food to starving people. And if this isn't radicalizing you, and I want to deconstruct this word radicalization, I feel like the Eurocentric language has created this word of radicalization to create a stigma or negative feelings around just we should be feeling human in this moment. People are trying to feed starving people and they're being held against their will. All of these activists represent all of us. Chris Smalls literally represents the working class. He represents the people coming together and caring for each other against an unfeeling machine. And right now he's doing it again, along with so many other super brave people. And if you're unfamiliar, look up Chris Smalls, look up what he did. Look up how brave he was, how he stood against such adversity, and how he's doing so right now. Their bravery should inspire you. You can feel it. You can feel it in the air that people need our help. It's life or death. And the fact that they're doing this to someone who is a public figure, it actually means that they're desperate. That they're going to try and do whatever it takes now to try and silence, because these cries for help are reverberating around the world. And it doesn't stop with Palestine. It's Aotearoa, it's Sudan and Congo and Tigray. It's giving land back to Native Americans. It's Hawaii. It's Samoa. Like, we have to be part of the inevitable wave of change. And maybe it won't happen even in 5 years or 10 years, but persistent insistence on change. Like, can't you almost like taste a better world in this time of desperation? Like, you can almost smell it in the air. That's why how desperate they are to quell this. Like, they're desperate for us to not care about these people. Do not stop. Do not stop.
I can tell you right now from my own experience that Palestinians and people of color are not safe amongst the Israeli government. They single-handedly attacked me out of the 21 volunteers because of the color of my skin. I didn't want to consent to their propaganda, so 7 authorities threw me to the ground. They put their knees in my back. They twisted my arms behind my back. They levitated me with 3 on each side, and one of them were pulling my hair back and choking me by the chains, telling me to shut up repeatedly. And they said some very racist remarks. They kept me isolated from the rest of the crew the entire time. And I know, once again, it was discrimination, and I wasn't treated like any of the other passengers.
When you did rise to national fame in the US, you got all these accolades, right? You were on the Time 100 list, you were on the cover of like New York Magazine, you were interviewed by the biggest shows in the country. I'm curious to get your thoughts on basically I don't know, do we call it silence on how the media reacted to what happened to you? Because you were barely on any American headlines.
Well, yeah, the media is complicit. I was I don't know how many times I've been in the New York Times. I lost count. When I was an Amazon worker, a fired Amazon worker, headlines gravitated to me pretty easily. Whether I was protesting in front of Jeff Bezos' house or starting a union, and even when we won and made history, American history, to see the media be complicit, and not only complicit, but just put out misinformation over the years. It's been very eye-opening. But I knew that prior to even joining the Handela that they're not going to cover this mission the way they covered the mission with Greta Thunberg, who's like a worldwide climate activist, and we already know very pro-Palestine now. And I saw that. I saw how they flipped on her. I said, I felt that, because that's the same thing that happened to me as well. Once I started speaking up about pro-Palestine.
You see them as flipping on you.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. I have a whole Rolodex full of journalists. I can text them right away on their cell phones right away. But they won't even dare touch any of these stories because their editors or their bosses was not going to publish it. And I see how emails come in even after I returned home. I made it on ABC News, and then I got contacted by some other big names. I won't name them now, but basically they started to backtrack. Oh yeah, well we have to keep things going, or the media, the narrative is already changing. So they're only there for a moment. We don't have to rely on mainstream media at all, or legacy media. It's up to the people to tell the truth. And that's what got me here, speaking truth to power. And I'm going to continue to do that no matter what platform.
Was there anyone else on the crew that was treated this way at all, whether in terms of the violence that you had faced or in terms of being separated from everyone else?
No, everybody else was able to stay together. So at some point in time during the first process, when we got to prison, though, it was more psychological torture. It was no coincidence that I was one of the last to leave. And not only me, but my brother, Hatem, who's Arab from Tunis, we had to stay in prison longer than everybody else. Everybody else was deported. Not only deported directly from Tel Aviv airport, they dropped me off to the Jordan border. So everything from the beginning to the end was, to me, racially motivated.
The conditions when you were separated, what was that like?
Well, for me, I was separated during the process of deportation, whether you wanted to be deported right away or whether you wanted to see the judge.
Yeah.
When you see the judge, you're basically going to prison until you see the judge.
Yeah.
When I got to prison, it was more the same psychological warfare, so to speak. Every day they would lie to us. They would gaslight us, saying that we're going home, knowing that we're not. We weren't allowed to get any yard time. We basically were in solitary confinement. They put 7 of us in one cell during a heat wave, so the oxygen level was very poor. We were on a hunger strike, so they were punishing us for being on a hunger strike by weaponizing food, by sitting in food in front of us. And then lastly, they sent the raid squad in on us twice for no reason, knowing that we didn't smuggle anything. They made us strip naked twice, 2 days in a row. And every day we were visited by the warden to try to intimidate us. It was just something I've never experienced, even in prison in America from one of my organizing efforts against Amazon. I had to face some prison time, and it wasn't nowhere near close as the harsh conditions there.
Were the only Black person on board the boat and also the only one to face violence, you say, from the IDF, being choked and kicked by 7 soldiers at once. Tell us a little more about that experience, if you will.
Yeah, once again, my color definitely had a role to play. The discrimination against Black and brown and Palestinian people. I got a glimpse of it myself. It's nothing compared to what Palestinian people go through every day. But once again, I was voicing my concerns, voicing my opinions about what has happened. This illegal siege that Israel has imposed when 7 authorities didn't like the fact that I didn't want to consent to their propaganda. They violently threw me to the ground. They put their knees in my back. They 3 on each side levitated me while one of the soldiers or authorities grabbed my hair, pulled my hair back and my jewelry to use it as a noose to choke me. And as he was choking me, he was yelling, telling me a bunch of racist remarks, saying he's not my brother and telling me to shut up repeatedly, until I was separated from the rest of the volunteers. They kept me isolated in a room. They threw me up against the wall a couple of times. Once again, just subjected to horrific conditions that nobody else had to face. And, I kind of expected that, but I didn't expect it to be that extreme. And I'm glad that I'm here to tell the story and once again to shed light on the atrocities that Israel has imposed on the Palestinian people. They need to be held accountable, and we need to break the illegal siege.
Well, we absolutely are glad that you're here to tell the story, too. And those are difficult details to recount. And so I appreciate you doing that. We do need to note that we've reached out to the IDF and haven't heard back comment. But the Israeli Foreign Ministry says that their Navy stopped the vessel from illegally entering Gaza and that unauthorized attempts to breach the blockade are dangerous, unlawful, and undermine ongoing humanitarian efforts. Chris, can you respond to that and talk about the treatment during your detainment?
Yeah, once again, that's a complete lie. The International Court of Justice ruled in the case against South Africa versus Israel that humanitarian aid is allowed to be delivered. The blockade that they claim to uphold is not real. It's not a real thing. They don't have no jurisdiction on international waters, especially in Palestinian territories where we were 60 miles from Gaza Strip. They have no jurisdiction there. So everything that they're saying is just not true. And once again, our illegal kidnapping or interception was illegal.